Thank you, cast and crew. Nice job, nice job. We will see you back tonight for a 7:30 half hour, 8 o'clock call. 7:30 half hour for an 8 o'clock call. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Hi there, my name is Louis Crocco, and I'm the production stage manager for the Off-Broadway play Perfect Crime here in New York City. So I'm originally from upstate New York, from a small town called Stuyvesant, New York. It's a little bit between Albany and Hudson, New York. And I was really pretty rambunctious kid around, and I just played a lot of sports and did a lot of activities with my neighbors. Teenage years. Well, those are awkward as always. I kind of was probably known as the band geek kid in high school, and lots of activities, music related, choir and band both. Didn't really start theater actually until my sophomore year in high school, so that was pretty late, and had no idea that's what I was going to do in life as a profession. The Humanities Club, which I was not a member of, I was not smart enough to be that, took a trip to New York City once a year. They would either see an opera or a Broadway show, and the choir director, if he had extra spots, he would invite some of his students to go along with him. I was lucky enough to be one of them. At Lincoln Center here in New York City, I saw a production of Pajama Game. I'll never forget it. From that moment on, I was pretty much half bitten with the bug, and I'll explain that later. Okay, so I went to college at Hartwick College, which is located in Oneonta, New York. Small, very small liberal arts college. Everyone knows what you're doing at all times. Didn't go for what I thought I would. My major was music education. When I was growing up, I thought I was going to go into law. Both my parents were cops. I loved the law. I always wanted to be a lawyer until I realized how much extra schooling that was. So, and I just saw I had a thing for music. I thought I was going to be the music teacher, and so that's why I got my degree in education, because I love teaching. My first job after post-graduation, it's the typical right place, right time, and just being very lucky. Throughout college, my summer job was I was working in a summer stock theater near where I grew up. Very fortunate to have that theater there, professional summer stock theater where you actually get paid. And I started out as an actor. Then I was being paid $85 a week and thought I'd made it as an actor. I realized that the drummer that was drumming for these shows, they do 8 shows a summer, was making almost $400 a week. And I was like, I could do that. And applied the next year, got that, ended up doing that for 8 years after. But right after college, one of the music directors, again, who you know, was going out on a national tour, and he invited me to come along as his drummer. Actually, right after I started national touring, I realized what I went to college for is not what I wanted to do, because it was so much fun and it was just what I was born to do. Still love teaching, and I did still kind of use the degree because later on I also became a director choreographer, which is kind of teaching, but I knew for sure I did not want to be the band guy or the choir guy and just teach. I wanted to perform and do as much as I could in the business, and just the goal was to keep working. So I spent, I'm giving away my age, 20 years on the road, full-time, non-stop. Crazy. It was crazy, but so great. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I got to see the country, some of the world. Later on in life, I actually got to do Rent in China, and lots of Canada, obviously, and stuff like that. But I mean, it was just really cool to be traveling and seeing city to city, staying in hotels, and just doing what you love, performing. So the transition again, it was right place, right time. So what I decided to do about 8 years ago, I kind of semi-retired and wanted to sit down in New York. And I think you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this when I add this. Is then I discovered this kind of cool hobby of mine, softball, and I just loved it. And so I started playing as much as I could and realized, okay, I kind of want to now in my adult life want to become a person and actually be able to do hobbies like that, because I couldn't do any of that when you're on the road, because you're literally living in hotels, you're traveling all day, performing at night, and I just really enjoyed it. So I started doing more and more of that, but I needed to find other work. And a friend of mine who knew I started stage managing, didn't have much on my resume, but again, right place, right time, knowing the right people, he heard of a position opening up for a kids show. And I started stage managing that, and it was only 2 days a week. It was really easy, but the same producer also produces Perfect Crime. And she saw my work, and she really liked me, and her current stage manager was leaving, and she offered me the job. Again, right place, right time, very lucky. As a production stage manager, it's basically you take care of almost everything that goes on backstage and pre and post show. So, I mean, I do everything from tons of paperwork. I file the reports every night. I keep track of what happens during the show and after the show. I rehearse all the new people that have to go into the show. And I also, on this production, because it's an off-Broadway show, I actually run sound and lights for the production as well, which is not a very common thing. If it's a Broadway show, it's a little different. You call the show, we call it. And, you know, I have to track people down if they're running late. I have to call them, find out if they're, you know, if they call out. I tell my understudy he's going on for the night, things like that. We rehearse at least once a week, sometimes more, to keep the understudies in shape and things like that. The advice I would give actually anyone who wants to be a production stage manager or in the business is there's two really key things. Is one, I would say, this will be controversial a little bit, but I'm a believer in the jack of all trades. I was criticized for that in high school actually, because a lot of people were like, well, you're never gonna excel at one thing, because there's lots of facets. There's acting, there's musicians, there's stage management, there's director, choreographer. I also, though, I looked at it as a possibility. I didn't want to get bored with one thing, doing the same thing over and over and over. When you're on tour, I did Miss Saigon for 4 years. You're doing the same show every day, sometimes twice a day, for 4 years straight. It can get really like monotonous, and it's exciting, don't get me wrong, but there's also days where you're like, ugh. So anyway, I just love to learn so many different things of the business so I could stay in the business and continue working. So I would say work hard, learn as much as you can about what your colleagues do. Lights, sound, stage management, anything else to do with the performances. And I think it'll come back to help you later in life. Yeah, if you're thinking of going into the arts, obviously the more you get involved, the better. And that's why I brought back the other thing about get involved with everything, not just the one section. You know, a lot of people in high schools and pre-high schools, they don't realize that there's a whole other world behind the scenes. And that's just as important, if not more important, than the actors on stage. So obviously, do as much as you can, work as hard as you can, and but get involved in your community. There's always a community theater out there somewhere besides your high school production, if you have time to do it. A lot of younger teens and even lower, they're doing a lot of stuff. They're playing sports. They're different clubs, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, all these different clubs and things like that. So it's hard, but the more you can practice your art, the better you'll be later in life for sure. One other thing is, and this is key because it almost happened to me, make sure when that right place, right time thing happens, you're ready for it. Because if you're not, you might blow your one chance you have at a really big gig. And that almost happened to me once on a show. It was a drumming, percussion thing. I'm also a musician. And I got called to play a show, and I almost didn't get it because I wasn't quite ready for that show at that time. So just, you gotta work hard, keep it up, and make sure you're ready, because when that phone call comes, you'll kick yourself if you can't do the job that you were called to do. So if you want to reach me and have any questions, I'm more than happy to help. Again, my name's Louis B. Crocco. My email is lbcrocco@aol.com. That's lbcrocco@aol.com. And I'm also on Facebook, Louis B. Crocco. I hope you enjoyed the video I just did, and thanks Impact for having me. And just do what you do and have fun, and just work hard and go get it. It'll be great.